Education in Russia is provided predominantly by the state and is regulated by the Ministry of Education and Science. Regional authorities regulate education within the jurisdictions within the prevailing framework of federal laws. In 2004, state spending for education amounted to 3.6% of GDP, or 13% of consolidated state budget. In 2011, the spending on education amounted to $20 billion. Private institutions account for 1% of preschool enrollment, 0.5% of elementary school enrollment, and 17% of university-level students. Before 1990, the course of school training in Soviet Union was 10 years, but at the end of 1990 the 11-year course had been officially entered. Education in state-owned secondary schools is free. First tertiary education is free with reservations. A substantial number of students are enrolled for full pay. Male and female students have equal shares in all stages of education, except tertiary education, where women lead with 57%. The literacy rate in Russia, according to a 2015 estimate by the Central Intelligence Agency, is 99.7%. According to a 2012 OECD estimate, 53% of Russia's adults has attained a tertiary education, giving Russia the highest attainment of college-level education in the world. The OECD average is 33%. 47.7% have completed secondary education, 26.5% have completed middle school, and 8.1% have elementary education. Highest rates of tertiary education, 24.7%, are recorded among women aged 35 to 39 years. In 2014, the Pearson Economist Intelligence Unit rated Russia's education as 8th best in Europe and 13th best in the world. Russia's educational attainment was rated as the 21st highest in the world, and the students' cognitive skills as the 9th highest. In 2015, OECD ranked Russian students' mathematics and science skills as the 34th best in the world, between Sweden and Iceland. In 2016, the U.S. company Bloomberg rated Russia's higher education as the 3rd best in the world, measuring the percentage of high school graduates who go on to attend college. The annual science and engineering graduates as percent of all college graduates, and science and engineering graduates as percent of the labor force. In 2016, the British PR company Portland Communications rated Russia as the world's 20th most influential country in education. Joseph Stiglitz, a former chief economist of the World Bank, states that one of the good things that Russia inherited from the Soviet era is a high level of education, especially in technical areas so important for the new economy. Preschool education. According to the 2002 census, 68% of children aged 5 were enrolled in kindergartens. According to UNESCO data, enrollment in any kind of preschool program increased from 67% in 1999 to 84% in 2005. Kindergartens, unlike schools, are regulated by regional and local authorities. The Ministry of Education and Science regulates only a brief preschool preparation program for the 5 to 6-year-old children. In 2004, the government attempted to charge the full cost of kindergartens to the parents. Widespread public opposition caused a reversal of policy. Currently, local authorities can legally charge the parents not more than 20% of costs. twins, children of university students, refugees, Chernobyl veterans and other protected social groups are entitled to free service. The Soviet system provided for nearly universal primary and kindergarten service in urban areas, relieving working mothers from daytime child care needs. By the 1980s, there were 88,000 preschool institutions. As the secondary education study load increased and moved from the 10 to 11-year standard, the kindergarten programs shifted from training basic social skills or physical abilities to preparation for entering the school level. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the number decreased to 46,000. Kindergarten buildings were sold as real estate, irreversibly rebuilt and converted for office use. At the same time, a minority share of successful state-owned kindergartens, regarded as a vertical lift to quality schooling, flourished throughout the 1990s. Privately owned kindergartens, although in high demand, did not gain a significant share due to administrative pressure. Share of children enrolled in private kindergartens dropped from 7% in 1999 to 1% in 2005. The improvement of the economy after the 1998 crisis, coupled with historical demographic peak, resulted in an increase in birth rate, first recorded in 2005. Large cities encountered shortage of kindergarten vacancies earlier. In 2002, Moscow's kindergarten waiting list included 15,000 children. In the much smaller city of Tomsk it reached 12,000. The city of Moscow instituted specialized kindergarten commissions that are tasked with locating empty slots for the children. Parents sign the children on the waiting list as soon as they are born. The degree of the problem varies between districts, e.g., Moscow's Phili-Davidkovo district has lost all of its kindergartens while Zelenograd claims to have short queue. Independent authors assert that bribes or donations for admission to kindergartens compete in amount with university admissions, while authorities refute the accusation. Secondary school general framework. There were 59,260 general education schools in 2007-2008 school year, an increase from 58,503 in the previous year. However, prior to 2005-2006, the number of schools was steadily decreasing from 65,899 in 2000-2001. The 2007-2008 number includes 4,965 advanced learning schools specializing in foreign languages, mathematics, etc., 2,347 advanced general-purpose schools, and 1,884 schools for all categories of disabled children. It does not include vocational technical school and technicums. Private schools accounted for 0.3% of elementary school enrollment in 2005 and 0.5% in 2005. According to a 2005 UNESCO report, 96% of the adult population has completed lower secondary schooling, and most of them also have an upper secondary education. 11-year secondary education in Russia is compulsory since September 1, 2007. Until 2007, it was limited to 9 years with grades 10-11 optional. Federal subjects of Russia could enforce higher compulsory standards through local legislation within the 11-year federal program. Moscow enacted compulsory 11-year education in 2005. Similar legislation existed in Altai Krai, Sakha and Taman Oblast. A student of 15 to 18 years of age may drop out of school with approval of his/her parent and local authorities, and without their consent upon reaching age of 18. Expulsion from school for multiple violations disrupting school life is possible starting at the age of 15. The 11-year school term is split into elementary, middle and senior classes. Absolute majority of children attend full-program schools providing 11-year education. Schools limited to elementary or elementary and middle classes typically exist in rural areas. Of 59,260 schools in Russia, 36,248 provide full 11-year program, 10,833 9-year basic program, and 10,198 elementary education only. The number is disproportionately large compared to the share of students due to lesser class sizes in rural schools. In areas where school capacity is insufficient to teach all students on a normal morning to afternoon schedule, authorities resort to double-shift schools, where two streams of students share the same facility. There were 13,100 double-shift and 75 triple-shift schools in 2007-2008, compared to 19,201 and 235 in 2000-2001. Children are accepted to first grade at the age of 6 or 7, depending on individual development of each child. Until 1990, starting age was set at 7 years and schooling lasted 10 years for students who were planning to proceed to higher education in universities. Students who were planning to proceed to technical schools were doing so, as a rule, after the 8th grade. The switch from 10 to 11-year term was motivated by continuously increasing load in middle and senior grades. In the 1960s, it resulted in a conversion of the 4th grade from elementary to middle school. Decrease in elementary schooling led to greater disparity between children entering middle school. To compensate for the missing 4th grade, elementary schooling was extended with a 0 grade for 6-year-olds. This move remains a subject of controversy. Children of elementary classes are normally separated from other classes within their own floor of a school building. They are taught, ideally, by a single teacher through all 4 elementary grades. 98.5% of elementary school teachers are women. The number decreased from 349,000 in 1999 to 317,000 in 2005. Starting from the 5th grade, each academic subject is taught by a dedicated specialty teacher. Pupil-to-teacher ratio is on par with developed European countries. Teachers' average monthly salaries in 2008 range from 6,200 rubles in Mordovia to 21,000 rubles in Moscow. The school year extends from September 1 to end of May and is divided into 4 terms. Study program in schools is fixed. Unlike in some Western countries, school children of their parents have no choice of study subjects. Class load per student is lower than in Chile, Peru or Thailand, although official hours are frequently appended with additional classwork. Students are graded on a 5-step scale, ranging in practice from 2 to 5. 1 is a rarely used sign of extreme failure. Vocational training option. Upon completion of a 9-year program, the student has a choice of either completing the remaining 2 years at normal school, or of a transfer to a specialized professional training school. Historically, those were divided into low-prestige PTUs and better-regarded technicums and medical schools. In the 2000s, many such institutions, if operational, have been renamed to colleges. They provide students with a working skill qualification and a high school certificate equivalent to 11-year education in a normal school. The program, due to its work training component, extends to 3 years. In 2007-08 there were 2,800 such institutions with 2,280,000 students. Russian vocational schools, like the tech prep schools in the USA, fall out of ISCED classification. Thus the enrollment number reported by UNESCO is lower, 1.41 million. The difference is attributed to senior classes of technicums that exceed secondary education standard. All certificates of secondary education, regardless of issuing institution, conform to the same state standard and are considered, at least by law, to be fully equivalent. The state prescribes minimum set of study subjects that must appear in each certificate. In practice, extension of study terms to 3 years slightly disadvantages vocational schools' male students who intend to continue. They reach conscription age before graduation or immediately after it, and normally must serve in the army before applying to undergraduate-level institutions. Though everyone is eligible to postpone their conscription to receive higher education, they must be at least signed up for the admission tests into the university the moment they get the conscription notice from the army. Most of military commissariat's officials are fairly loyal to the potential recruits on that matter and usually allow graduates enough time to choose the university and sign up for admission or enroll there on paid basis, despite the fact that the spring recruiting period is not yet ended by the time most schools graduate their students, and all those people may legally be commanded to present themselves to the recruitment centers the next day after the graduation. Males of conscription age that chose not to continue their education at any stage usually get notice from the army within half a year after their education ends. Because of the periodic nature of recruitment periods in Russian army unified state examinations, traditionally, the universities and institutes conducted their own admissions tests regardless of the applicant's school record. There were no uniform measure of graduates' abilities. Marks issued by high schools were perceived as incompatible due to grading variances between schools and regions. In 2003, the Ministry of Education launched the Unified State Examination Program. The set of standardized tests for high school graduates, issued uniformly throughout the country and rated independent of the student's school masters, akin to North American SAT, was supposed to replace entrance exams to state universities. Thus, the reformers reasoned, the use will empower talented graduates from remote locations to compete for admissions at the universities of their choice, at the same time eliminating admission-related bribery, then estimated at $1 billion annually. In 2003, 858 university and college workers were indicted for bribery. Admission fee in MGIMO allegedly reached $30,000. University heads, notably Moscow State University rector Viktor Sadovnichi, resisted the novelty, arguing that the schools cannot survive without charging the applicants with their own entrance hurdles. Nevertheless, the legislators enacted use in February 2007. In 2008 it was mandatory for the students and optional for the universities. It is fully mandatory since 2009. A few higher education establishments are still allowed to introduce their own entrance tests in addition to use scoring. Such tests must be publicized in advance. Awarding use grades involves two stages. In this system, a primary grade is the sum of points for completed tasks, with each of the tasks having a maximum number of points allocated to it. The maximum total primary grade varies by subject, so that one might obtain, for instance, a primary grade of 23 out of 37 in mathematics and a primary grade of 43 out of 80 in French. French. The primary grades are then converted into final or test grades by means of a sophisticated statistical calculation, which takes into account the distribution of primary grades among the examinees. This system has been criticized for its lack of transparency. The first nationwide youth session covering all regions of Russia was held in the summer of 2008. 25.3% students failed literature tests. 23.5% failed mathematics. The highest grades were recorded in French, English and society studies. 20,000 students filed objections against the grades. One-third of objections were settled in the students' favor. Education for the disabled. Physical disability. Children with physical disabilities, depending on the nature, extent of disability and availability of local specialized institutions, attend either such institutions or special classes within regular schools. As of 2007, there were 80 schools for the blind and the children with poor eyesight. The school term is extended to 12 years and classes are limited to 9 to 12 pupils per teacher. Education for the deaf is provided by 99 specialized kindergartens and 207 secondary boarding schools. Children who were born deaf are admitted to specialized kindergartens as early as possible. Ideally from 18 months of age, they are schooled separately from children who lost hearing after acquiring basic speech skills. Vocational schools for the working deaf people who have not completed secondary education exist in 5 cities only. Another wide network of specialized institutions takes care of children with mobility disorders. 60 to 70% of all children with cerebral palsy are schooled through this channel. Children are admitted to specialized kindergartens at 3 or 4 years of age and are streamed into narrow specialty groups. The specialization continues throughout the school term that may extend to 13 years. The system, however, is not ready to accept children who also display evident developmental disability. They have no other option than homeschooling. All graduates of physical disability schools are entitled to the same level of secondary education certificates as normal graduates. There are 42 specialized vocational training colleges for disabled people. Most notable are the School of Music for the Blind in Kursk and Medical School for the Blind in Kislovodsk. Fully segregated undergraduate education is provided by 2 colleges, the Institute of Arts for the Disabled and the Social Humanitarian Institute, both in Moscow. Other institutions provide semi-segregated training and declare full disability access of the regular classes. Bauman Moscow State Technical University and Chelyabinsk State University have the highest number of disabled students. Bauman University focuses on education for the deaf. Herzen Pedagogical Institute enroll different groups of physical disability. However, independent studies assert that the universities fail to integrate people with disabilities into their academic and social life. Mental disability. An estimated 20% of children leaving kindergarten fail to adjust to elementary school requirements and are in need of special schooling. Children with delayed development who may return to normal schools and study along with normal children are trained at compensatory classes within regular schools. The system is intended to prepare these children for normal school at the earliest possible age, closing the gap between them and normal students. It is a relatively new development that began in the 1970s and gained national approval in the 1990s. Persistent but mild mental disabilities that preclude co-education with normal children in the foreseeable future but do not qualify as moderate, heavy, or severe retardation require specialized correction boarding schools that extend from 8 to 9 to 18 to 21 years of age. The task is to adapt the person to living in a modern society, rather than to subsequent education. Children with stronger forms of intellectual disability are, as of 2008, mostly excluded from the education system. Some are trained within severe disability groups of the correction boarding schools and orphanages. Others are aided only through counseling.